So welcome everybody. This is Multifamily Passive Cash Flow for Life. We hold this meetup every month. We used to hold it live at the Timbuktu restaurant about 10 minutes outside of Columbia, Maryland. And then obviously COVID hit and everybody was asking about, what happened to the meetup. So we went virtual and it's been an interesting process ever since. Some people, we were just talking about this, some people really like it because they can just be there in their pajamas and still be able to ask questions and participate and get great information. And other people are like, this is okay, but I really like the person-to-person interaction. I get to meet, really good people and really start a relationship and still get my questions answered. And the networking is great. Plus, I love the crab cakes as well. Nicole mentioned that, and I love the crab cakes as well. They're really, really good. So anyway, right now we're doing it virtually. My name is James Ray. I'm going to be your host tonight. And this meetup is all about apartment buildings, mobile home parks, and self-storage. Every fourth Wednesday of the month, we bring you a speaker to do a presentation on a topic that will hopefully grow your business, or if you're a passive investor, educate you as to what a good passive investment is. My partner, Nicole, who's on the line now, personally has thousands of units across the United States and been investing in commercial real estate for almost 25 years. And she's going to be helping host the meetup as well. Nicole, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I think I recognize a lot of names.
Absolutely. So, okay, a couple of housekeeping notes. We try and have everyone on mute automatically, but if for some reason you're not muted, if you can please do so, we'll keep background noise to a minimum. That would be great. At the end, we'll have some Q&A. And if you have questions during the presentation, just write them in the chat box. I'll write them down. And then if there's a space or a time when we can during the presentation, I'll jump in and ask them, or we'll just keep them till the end. Also, if you could not share your screen, it's supposed to be turned off, but if for some reason it's on, if you could not share it, that would be great. We appreciate that. And then at the end, we'll do some virtual networking for 5 or 10 minutes, let you guys go into separate rooms and kind of talk to each other, exchange information. As you mentioned earlier, Vicky asked, this will actually be posted on our YouTube channel, which will go out probably on Monday. It takes a couple of days to actually edit it and upload it. Our YouTube channel or our Facebook page, you can find at Multifamily Passive Cash Flow for Life. You just type that into the search box and either one, it'll pop right up for you. And then, like I said, once we edited it, we're also going to send out the email to everybody that's on our list, both Meetup and our mailing list, and send them a link directly to the YouTube channel and the YouTube recording. And then we'll also include Jason's information if you guys have questions for him directly, you want to invest with him, or you just want to reach out and say hi. So a little bit about Jason. I've known Jason for a little while now. What's it been? It's been a little while, not a huge amount of time, maybe a year or something like that, maybe a little bit less. It's been just a little while. So
yeah, at least a couple years, right?
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it has, because it was first met at like Best Ever.
Oh, right. I remember that.
Yeah.
So Jason has his own meetup down in Northern Virginia. Now he's moved, so he's no longer there, so he's virtual as well. But I'd also gone down to his meetup a couple of times. He runs a great meetup. Now you have to go to Atlanta if you want to go live. But maybe if you want to send your meetup information, I'll put that in the email we send out to everybody as well, because you always do a good job with that. So Jason Stubblefield is the founder of S&S Capital Partners. He acquires and syndicates multifamily opportunities across the United States and helps passive investors take charge of their financial futures by investing in multifamily. Jason started off developing software solutions for various government agencies. And like a lot of us, when looking at his retirement options, he quickly realized he needed to be proactive and take charge of his retirement future. After researching various investment strategies for long-term wealth, Jason discovered multifamily real estate to be one of the most profitable, tax-advantageous solutions available. I agree 100%. He proved the concept to himself and then invited other investors to join him. Jason has currently participated as a general partner in 5 syndications representing over 1,000 units and is currently putting together his 6th one. So Jason, thanks so much for taking the time. I know you got 3 kids. I know you're busy with everything that's going on. You got a deal you're working on and everything else. So thanks for being with us. But I will go ahead and stop sharing, and then you can share your screen. Do you want to do more of an introduction? I just kind of, read what I had.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead and start a screen share. But thanks James for that introduction. It's been a pleasure knowing you. You've spoken at my meetup before a couple times, provided a lot of value. I know what you do, and the information that you provide is outstanding. You and Nicole definitely have a lot of valuable information, and I've been able to suck up some. So appreciate you for that and for extending your platform to me for the evening. So I know everyone here is in good hands. Let me go ahead and get this screen share started so we can rock and roll. So I know that James mentioned, all right, can you all see my screen? I see
Yes.
Chris nodding the head. Yep. All right. Okay, cool.
Put it in presentation mode, please.
Yes. Let me do that. Okay. Does that work?
Yes, thank you.
I think that screw. I've got several screens, so whenever I go presentation mode, I think it screws around my screen. So
it's all good. It's all good.
If you go to the bottom of your screen and hit the little screen down at the right bottom, the bottom right, you see the little screen that typically takes it over a couple more. One more. Now hit that. That should put you in full mode. There you go.
Okay, I can work with this. It's fine.
But if you want to change that, you just change the display settings on top there, top left display settings. Click on that and change it. Swap. Yeah. The next one. Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Help me out. Help me out, because I am not a PowerPoint guru. Okay, but yeah, let's go ahead. If we're all good now, let's go ahead and get started. So
Jason, just real quick, it's 10 after now. We told people you'd probably be on between 35 and 45 minutes, if that works for you.
Sure.
Okay, great. I mean, you can go shorter, if you want to. It's up to you. I don't want to put you in a bad spot.
No, that's fine. I'll share what I have here. I think it should be about that. What I would say is that, James, I know you got to be monitoring the questions as they come in. And so I like to just sort of get them all out and answer people's questions as they come along. If I do have something that's coming up in a later slide,
I'll just copy them down as they come in on chat. And then when you take a breath, I'll kind of jump in and ask them.
Yeah, cool. Feel free to interrupt me at any given moment, and we'll make it happen. Okay, so a little bit about me. James gave me an introduction, but as you'll see on the left there, that's my wife. I've got 3 daughters. I've got the need to invest, plenty of weddings, plenty of whatever, right? But no, I love my family to death. They're a lot of the reason why I try to be a better person. My history, I've been in Marine Corps. I'm a veteran of that. I got a real estate license for some time. I was a software developer doing the government contracting in the DC area for several years, and then sort of got into multifamily. And so what prompted that is what James had mentioned earlier, was just I started looking at what I was doing and how does this end? How does this W-2 life sort of end for me? And looking at that, I was like, okay, let me just see how much money I should have in a 401k. And when I looked at that, the numbers just didn't look great at all, right? And I think that right now where we are historically, you're starting to see the first wave of people that are actually coming from that 401k and retiring. And it's completely inadequate. I mean, it's not going to support me, my lifestyle, and probably a lot of other people and their lifestyle. And so I got fired up about it. I wanted to tell everybody I know. I was like, hey, this isn't going to work. But before you can get anybody else involved to sort of believe in your plan, your dream, whatever, you have to do something first. And so I started investing in multifamily back in 2016. I'll talk about that deal a little bit as we go on, but December 2016 was the first time I bought any multifamily. That was a 34 unit apartment down in Tennessee. And then I did my first syndication in 2018. And currently I sit as a general partner in over 1,000 units. So how did it begin? Well, you're looking at this beautiful property right here that I was fortunate enough to be able to learn a lot from. So I had been looking for deals. This property had been on the market forever. I sort of overlooked it. It's too big. It's an apartment building. I was looking for like a 4 unit. My plan was to buy a 4 unit, and then I was going to go to 8 unit and 12 unit. So this was just something that was a little bit out of my league. But finally, I just called and sort of talk about it. If you look at the top right, you can see how nasty and dingy that place looks. And I put that here purposely because I know there are a lot of people who are starting out, and in the podcast world and the webinar world, everybody's throwing up their flashy 150 unit. You know, you found a great B class in the C area, you renovated, it's beautiful. But for a lot of people, you may want to look at starting off with something that's not that attractive, especially now, and if you're trying to get something that's cash flowing. But if you want to maybe start off with a lower class property, you can learn a lot and gain some skills if you will just sort of apply yourself. So up top is where we started. You can't really see, I need to adjust the slide to show the upgraded flooring, but we just came in, didn't make it look completely beautiful, but it's definitely better than where we found it. This property was 50% vacant. There was a ton of issues with it. So the numbers, right? This was a lot of people, especially in the DC area, are going to laugh. This was $330,000, right? But it's in Tennessee and it's 50% vacant and there's a ton of deferred maintenance and nobody wanted to touch it. And so I called the agent, I sort of talked about it, and I said, hey, there's a lot of value here if you can just get the other 50% leased up. And so that's what I did. That was my first experience as a multifamily investor. We got it leased up. We got the occupancy up. We put about $250,000 into it. And then I was able to refinance it, get all of my capital back out. And I still own that asset to this day. All right, so timeline. So I showed you how I started. That was 34 units. That was 2016. After that, I did my first syndication in Evergreen Apartments. That was 48 units. Next, bumped up a little bit with 350 units, but that's because I joined up with a team. And I've done that because it's mutually beneficial if you can bring something to another partnership team. But even though I'm not a majority equity owner in it, I still, those little percentages add up. And so 350 units in 2019, another 529 in 2020. And then the latest acquisition is we just closed over in Augusta, Georgia, and that was 68 units back in February. So this slide is in here, right? So really quick, you know, it just says the greatest mistake you can make is the fear that you'll make one. And when I was sitting in that position, you know, years ago, sort of thinking about what I was going to do, I felt like it's better to just go out and do something than to be so fearful. I know a lot of people, they attend meetups, they attend webinars, they go to meetings, conferences, whatever. And you may see them a year down the road, 2 years down the road, and they haven't done much of anything. And so if that resonates, I don't want that to be you. Of course, you want to take educated guesses and not go out there and be foolish, but don't be so fearful that you don't move. All right. So the acquisition process, which is what we're going to be talking about tonight, really just wanted to sort of show you all what I do to find deals. And it is a process. And I just want to share with a full disclosure. So what we're talking with tonight, if there's anything that's not clear to you, something you want me to go into a little bit more, feel free to ask that question and I'll try to dig in. But I want to show you from my perspective how my company goes through and tries to acquire multifamily. So let's get into it. All right. If you're looking for single families, you may see that cheesy picture of the real estate agent on the side of a billboard or at a bus stop, business cards all over the place. But when it comes to multifamily, who has seen, if we've got a chat going on, who has seen any billboards for apartment buildings? Who's seen even a multifamily broker sort of go out and even advertise, introduce themselves? You don't see it much. I can't see the chat if anybody responded to that, but the answer is for you. You don't see it much, if at all. And that's because this game is a little bit different. When you're talking about assets, you know, especially the more expensive ones, there's not as large of a pool of people who are able to buy those. And so the broker community sort of comes into a good old boys network where you have to know somebody, you have to have some credibility, and then you start to get deals. Now, if you're new, you're just starting out, you probably don't have that already. You definitely don't have that any credibility, right? So 2 websites here, if you haven't heard of, loopnet.com, crexy.com. These are a place where anybody could sort of log in, create an account, and start to see commercial real estate listings, right? And one of the first things I did was hire a virtual assistant. I started with LoopNet. I don't think Crexy was around then, but I hired a virtual assistant. And side note, back up a little bit. This was after I had closed my first property, but you could do it at any point, right? And you sort of just craft a little message. I think at loopnet.com, they don't give you that many characters, but have a virtual assistant go through, craft up a message. Hey, my name is X. I'm looking for these amount of deals, you know, and sort of start reaching out to all these brokers. So loopnet.com and Crexy, they get a bad rep because it's really a place where you don't want a lot of those deals, or if it's a really attractive deal, it may not be on LoopNet and Crexy, but that depends on the brokerage. Some brokerages like to get maximum exposure. So you'll find some of the smaller brokerages will go ahead and list it on a Crexy or a LoopNet. And then you'll find some brokers that never put anything on there, or they put the deals on there that just nobody wants. So it's a place that you could check out, but the real value there is getting the names of the brokerages. And because they're not out with billboards or any advertising, you could come up with a list of brokerages, and you can hire a virtual assistant to go through and message all those brokers. Hey, my name is Jason. I'm looking for, you know, starting off, hey, I'm looking for 10 to 20 units in Hyattsville, right? Or wherever your market is, something local. But you start doing that, and suddenly you'll start getting email brokers who will say, hey, here's a deal right here. Here's a deal right there, you know, and you can start evaluating those. All right, I touched on relationships and credibility because it is that, and it scales, right? On the lower scale, when you're starting off, you don't really need that much credibility. You just need money, practically. Like, can you show up and buy this $500,000 property, or $1 million property, or $200,000 property? It doesn't matter, but that's really your interest in. There's not a lot of yellow tape to walk around. As you get into bigger deals, then you will start to get evaluated. And so another way to get around that is just look to partner with somebody, to say, hey, I'm part of a team, or I'm the acquisitions person on a bigger team, and we have deals. And so you're just talking about what you can do to sort of get you through the front door, right? We touched on that, and so the email. So that was my process of just starting the deal flow, right? Something that's actionable. If anybody's looking to get deal flow started, you can take this slide and start up something tomorrow, right? Okay. Cool. James, we good? Any questions, or rocking and rolling?
No, we're all good.
Okay. All right, cool. So making offers, this is not really that hard. It's basically just knowing the net operating income, which is income minus expenses, right? You can figure that out. How much money does the property make altogether? How many expenses there are? And then we have the cap rate, which varies in explanation depending on who is going to tell you about it, because I don't want to overcomplicate things with talking about exit cap rates, entrance cap rates. But just to sort of keep it simple, cap rate is a unit of measure to determine how much someone is willing to pay for a given amount of income. So when we calculate that net operating income, how much is that worth? Give you an example of it. If I have any commercial asset, but let's say it's a property that's making $100,000 in net operating income, and that property is in Northwest, right? DC, right? There's going to be one cap rate for that, because $100,000 in Northwest, that's an attractive area. There's a lot of foot traffic there. It means a lot, and that may sell for, say, $2 million, but you have $100,000 in another area, say like Norfolk, right? You're down in Norfolk. The same $100,000 produces the same amount of money. However, that $100,000 may only be worth $1 million, right? So the difference in those are determined by a cap rate. You can find that out from a broker. You can also calculate it if you know the sales price and you know the net operating income. You can do that simple equation to figure out. You only need two variables in that equation. You can figure out the other one, right? So what we do is basically determine what our property's current value is and what the future value is going to be, and we know how to buy it, and then we know where we're going to sell it at. And so me as a value add investor, what we do is we look for a property where I can buy it here, and then I'm going to sell it at an area that's much higher than that. So I'm going to buy it at $100,000 in net operating income. After I own it for 5 years, it's going to double, right, to $200,000 in net operating income. And that's where I'm going to determine my exit price at and know how much money I can make off of my sale and how much money we can generate to give to our investors. Okay. If you choose to underwrite deals, you're going to need some tools to calculate this, right? So this is just a simple slide to sort of let you know. One of them is almost an industry standard at this point, Michael Blanc's syndicated deal analyzer. If you Google that, Michael Blanc, syndicated deal analyzer, you'll find his analyzer, and a lot of people in the space use that one. It's got a lot of features already in. He's got a little course that accompanies it that lets you know how to do it. Justin Kibble has got a Udemy course, and he's got underwriting there, but it actually teaches you a lot more in depth, in my opinion, about how to underwrite and build your own model. So if you're someone who's looking to perhaps understand models more in depth, then you may want to consider going through his program. The difference between those two, right, is just simply grabbing one and having someone explain to you how one is built, is that you can understand the numbers behind the numbers. So it's easy to sort of go over there and just input numbers and see what comes back. And like, hey, if this is a 10% average annual return, I'm going to buy it. And if not, but you need to understand if there may be something wrong with that calculator or if something just looks off. And being able to understand the formulas behind it, make adjustments to it if necessary, is something that I would recommend. This is on the acquisition side. If you're looking to be an owner or operator, knowing your numbers is everything. And so you have to do a little bit of living in those spreadsheets. And so in my case, I ended up building my own, and I just looked at, when I say build my own, I'm talking about my own analyzer, but you look at a lot of models, you see certain things, you say, hey, I like this, I don't like that. And then you can sort of build your own. And I think with Justin Kibble, he shows you how to build up one too. So all three of those are ways to get yourself access to a tool that you can use to do your underwriting with. All right. So the process, I'm gonna get in a little bit to the process of underwriting. So the first thing you want to do before you get into a detailed underwriting is just see, do you want this property, right? Is it even advantageous for you to buy it? And one thing that I say is when you're trying to choose a market, choose a place that makes sense for you. All right. For instance, a lot of people, I've talked to investors in California, and they're sort of all over the place. I like the Carolinas. I like Georgia. I like the Southeast. I like the Midwest. I like Texas, Nevada. It's too much, right? And you could put too much detail into just market selection. It's not something that you should look over easily, but I try to make it simple. Just look for places where you have a need to be. Maybe there's a place where you have family at, so you're already visiting your family. That was my case. Maybe you have business relationships there, friends who are there. Maybe it's a place that you want to ultimately retire. And so buying in that market may make sense to you. If you want to retire in Florida, maybe you look at a market in Florida, because if you set up, you've already got a reason to go there to look at properties, to vacation, et cetera, right? But a couple of things that we do is get market data. Market data, I'm looking for the economics of any given market. So you're talking about population growth. You're talking about jobs growth. You want to see job data. You want to see low unemployment. All these things sort of contribute to a growing market because it's easier for you to make your deal work if you're in a market that's already appreciating, right? There's already a demand for jobs and housing there. It helps your job as an investor become easier. And one of those is citydata.com. They've got a lot of data. justicemap.org has a huge amount of data. Not huge in as far as the quantity, but in the value, right? The quality of the information they provide is really useful, right? So city data, you're going to get those major market indicators. Okay, what's the population doing? What's the median household income doing? Job growth, those sort of things. But real estate is local, very local, to the street level local. And Justice Map provides you with that. So I'm going to stop this for a minute and go to it. So if you go to justicemap.org, which is where I'm at right here, and you can, let me just go with a base map, right? So right now, this is Memphis, Tennessee, and this is definitely an area. I don't know if anybody's invested in Memphis, but this is definitely an area where you need to know street level data. But first, you just sort of see the city, but you can drill down into various areas and get really detailed. But what I like to do is come over here to this income button, and immediately you find a lot of useful information. Okay, so you have the red areas that are going to be lower income, dark blue, higher income. So when you're looking at deals, you want to get down to that street level and say, what am I looking at? So I'm just going to click this random box here. This income is $22,902. Okay, that does not bode well for you going in and trying to implement some value add strategy, right? That is very low income of 22,000. Let's go over. This is probably not even a mile, and click on this box. $60,000 in median household income. Now, if you're underwriting deals, brokers, what they will do is they'll give you a property over here in this 22,000, and they'll give you a comp that's over here in this light blue of 60,000 and say, hey, you know, all you got to do is do a light value add, you know, throw some paint up and you're going to get this added value. When you're not, right? You're in a $22,000 per year market. And let me tell you, people don't travel that far. There's not going to be anybody who's living over here in a $60,000 per year household income who's going to send their kids to school over here. It just doesn't happen. And I mean, I'm talking in overgeneralizations right now, but it doesn't happen that often, if at all, right? So you need to know the street data, and I love Justice Maps for that. So I think that this is huge if you to understand it, and it's free. You don't have to pay a dime for this. But you know, you look here, you see a $40,000 neighbor income, and you can also do some other things in advanced mode, right? So if you go to advanced, what I like to go over here is income change. So if you click on income change, what you're now seeing is places in the market that are starting to appreciate in value, where values are going up. So you can look at a property here and say, all right, well, this had a 7% growth in income since this data was put out, right? And this stopped, 2017, right? Okay, so valuable information. You come to another area, 25% decline in income. So where do you want to be? You want to be in these areas that are growth. What you may do if you just sort of play around with the map, you'll see an area where maybe it's $40,000 a year in income, but that's trending upward. And maybe that gives you a little bit of momentum if you know some things about the market to project that it's going to continue to increase, right? So justicemap.org is that website. You definitely want to check that out. All right, where's my presentation at? Okay, and let me get my magic button over here. Boom, that guy. And Did I remember? I'm going to swap. Okay. So we're back. So that was market level. Now we're going to go like a layer beneath that and start talking about, now we're actually going to get into some numbers. And you can do a full underwriting with some of those calculators. You can also do quick and dirty. And for a while, my quick and dirty was around that 1% rule. And I use that very roughly, right? Really like to see north of that, maybe like a 1.2, 1.3, 0.9. But if I'm buying at $60,000 a unit, and the rents are $600, it's a deal that I should probably go into and do some more further analysis. And you would think that that is the way that you could do it all the time, but it is not. They have some really attractive debt products right now, and I'll talk about that a little bit later too. But there are debt products right now that allow you to do 2, 3, 4, 5 years of interest only. And so if you've got that attractive debt behind you with a value add, sometimes you can go way below 1% or what you would normally think. So you have to sort of combine those two. If you're buying it, you're doing principal and interest payments, you probably want to stick to somewhere around that 1% rule before you even dig deep. If you've got the ability to get attractive bridge financing, or you're doing a larger deal where you can get 5 years of IO or something like that, then you may want to consider doing an evaluation, because you're probably going to find that you can do a lot higher than, or you can go a lot lower than the 1% rule. All right. So that's just a brief rule of thumb for that. Again, determine the sales price, know your buy, know your sell. So the goal is to get to something like this. I thought with putting up my whole underwriting model, but that may just lead us down a rabbit hole we don't necessarily want to go to. But what you're looking at is a pro forma. This is going to tell you what you project your income to be every single year, why you plan to hold it, and what your net operating income is going to be for every single year that you plan to hold it. And then you're going to use that net operating income along with a cap rate to say, this is going to be my exit. So you take all this data, you roll it together, and that's how you come up with your initial offer and your projection afterwards. And if you're given this, you're going to need to give this to the bank and use it going forward in order to get financing. Okay. So I've lived in DC for, I don't know, 10, 12 years, however long it was before I moved, but I don't own anything even in Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia at all. Everything's been out of state. So I want to throw in a few tips for anybody who's looking to buy out of state. As I discussed before, have a reason to be there. Yes, do the market analysis. Yes, know if the population is going up. Yes, know if there's jobs coming into the market, if you have a growing household income, growing median household price. You want to know those large market statistics, but also just buy where you have a reason to be. And you'll find that if you just buy where you have a reason to be, it's a lot more natural. You can leverage people who live there. I've had friends and family just say, hey, what do you think about this area? Oh, no, I wouldn't live over there. I don't even go over there at night. Okay, that's the things that you oftentimes can't get by being out of a market, right? So do that. You want to visit or have boots on the ground. So you may find that there's somebody else who lives in that market who's investing there, and you want to build a team, right? So building a team is probably something that we could do a whole presentation on in itself, but you want to make sure that you have strategic alliances to help you accomplish your goal. One of those would be the property manager, and that's probably the most important part of your team. And the reason I say that is that a good property manager will have all the connections that you need. And as you start to grow a portfolio, your job is going to be to do less. So what you want is a property manager who just knows how to handle things, and then they report to you on what they handled, and you're able to grade that like a report card, right? But to find a good property manager is going to be a little bit challenging But once you find that property manager, you can say, hey, we need roof repairs to go into this project. And your property manager will be able to connect you with a roofer or someone who can do your repairs or someone who can do your unit renovations, right? I own units, but I don't know how to, I haven't even swapped out a toilet, honestly, right? I'm a software guy. I don't do a lot of hammers and nails. And even though YouTube does make me feel pretty good about some things that I've accomplished, but outside of just going into a property, fixing something, that's not anything that I do at all. I have people in the DC area who are like, well, what are you going to do if there's a problem in a property that you own that's not near you? And the answer is the same thing I would do if there was a property that I own that was very near to me, right? I'm not going over there to fix any leaks. I don't know that stuff. I'm just going to pick up the phone and call somebody. So build your team out, and property management will be the number one thing that you will want to focus on. But doing that, bigger pockets is a great way to find those people. Alliances and other people are really the best way to find it. You don't necessarily want to go to Google and just say property managers in your given city or state or whatever. That's probably not going to find you the type of knowledge that you're looking for. You want to find a property manager who's worked well with owners, and other owners can tell you that. So what I like to do is go to biggerpockets.com for that. And I use what I call like a rule of 5. I'm talking about property managers, but you can honestly do this with anything. You can do this with real estate agents, property managers, lawyers, whatever. But Bigger Pockets is just like got a ton of information. But you go to Bigger Pockets, you go put in your given city that you're looking for and just ask, or you can search the blogs to see if somebody else has already asked it. The rule of 5 comes in where if you're looking at a blog of somebody talking about good property managers and you say XYZ property manager is great, and then you read a couple other blog posts and XYZ company comes up again, and you do 2 or 3, 4 blog posts and you keep seeing that same name occur over and over again, that's a good clue that you probably want to reach out and speak with them. I will say, as a side note, all property management companies aren't equal. And when I say that, I mean, you can't expect you going in on your first property manager on your first property that you're buying, which may be a 12-unit property, and use a property manager that manages, a portfolio of 5,000 units. They're probably not going to look for anything that small, right? But you can look out to see if there's another property manager who manages a 20-unit, and if they do a good job, then connecting with that property manager is something that you should do. So try to stick within the realm of the type of assets that you're going to be buying. All right. So I'm going to take a brief drink of water. We all good?
Yeah, we did have a couple of questions here. Actually, Nicole answered one of them, but so for a new investor, would you advise investing locally? And you kind of touched on this, but for a new investor, would you advise investing locally as opposed to out of state? For example, living in the District of Columbia area, wouldn't Richmond, Virginia, Norfolk make more sense?
Yes. With DC traffic, Richmond can Richmond can almost be as far as a plane ticket, depending on how 95 is. But yes, ideally, if you can get to something that you can drive to, that is better because you can be there. But the goal that you're looking for is something that you don't have to be there. So I would say, my market would be anything within 2 to 3 hours driving distance, or maybe 4 hours or 5 hours, however you want to do it. But it would also, if you're not talking about that radius and you want to pack up and go somewhere completely out of state, that's when you want to look for the places that you need to be there. But if there's a great market, or if you get a great deal and you're just getting started and it doesn't happen to fit into your 2 to 3 hour time zone, you may want to consider that property anyway. So, okay. So here's what we do, right? We have our KPIs, our key performance indicators in that I want to underwrite 10 deals every week, and I want to get 2 offers out every week. That's our goal. We don't hit it every week, but that is what my team aims for, right? So I'm going to give you just underneath the hood exactly what I do. I have virtual assistants, and you will want to have virtual assistants as well. In earlier slides, I talked about understanding the underwriting. And so you don't necessarily have to start off like this. Actually, I wouldn't advise it all the way. But you need to understand how to underwrite yourself, how to evaluate deals yourself. But once you do that, you can leverage other help to help you do some of the preliminary data. So when my virtual assistants look at a deal, they're going to give me certain metrics to sort of let me know. Matter of fact, let me just show a deal real quick. Views, if I can get this back to what they're going to do is this sort of market analysis for me right here, right? So we're going to know the unemployment change. We're going to know that's for the MSA, for the city, for the population change. We're going to know the median household income, the median home value, and they actually put a link over here to justice maps. So I just accidentally clicked on it, but it's going to take me right to justice maps right there and show me where that property hits. So that when I'm looking at this underwriting already, we disqualify deals right here if it doesn't hit a certain amount of metrics. It's the income is too low, the population is declining, something like that. VAs can do that, and you don't have to look at it. And when you start trying to do volume, you want to have these sort of quick exits on deals before you spend 3 hours going into a deep underwriting on it. Okay, back here. So let me fix it up. Could I get faster now? From there, and 12. All right, so we're back. But we have my assistants go through, do that data, and they also sort of prep the deal for me, right? So they're going to enter in all the rent roll information, all the expense information. I simply hand them rent roll, T12, and the offering memorandum, and they give me back a deal that's probably 80% done. All right. They don't necessarily know how to do everything, but they are doing rent comps, and that is very important. So I give them resources and tools to go out and sort of pull rent comps, and they put rent comps in there, and I have a general idea of how that deal should work. But after that, it goes to step 3, which is my acquisition manager. And this is someone who's not, my virtual assistants are overseas, right? By the way, so I'm not paying, $50 an hour to have that deal underwritten. I'm paying like $5 an hour to have that done. And then it goes to my acquisition manager, where I am paying a lot more, but they're part of my team. And what they're going to do is do a detailed analysis to catch any mistakes of the virtual assistants, confirm the rent assumptions, and sort of take another look at the market to say, hey, maybe we can go higher in rents because of this. Maybe we can not go as high in rents because of that, right? So you have someone who has experience who sort of details the offer a little bit better. And what I found with my assistants, they're good at data entry. They're good at sort of following directions. But some things you just need a personal touch or someone who's local, who understands real estate, to say that, hey, that unit is only 500 square feet. There's no way that somebody's going to pay to live there and pay that much money for it. Things like that. From that, we go a soft offer. And the soft offer is an email, right? So we're not even going through drafting up a formal letter. We're just going to send an email to the broker. Tip for you, if you want to sort of stand out a little bit, we actually embed our underwriting in the offer. So we're going to put our pro forma data right there and say, hey, we're thinking about submitting at this offer at, say, $8 million. And we want the broker to understand how we got to $8 million and tell us if we're wrong. And maybe we're wrong. Now we're not going to allow the broker to say, yeah, your rents could be $300 a unit higher, and we just make that change. But there could be some knowledge about the property that we don't have, or maybe they got some sort of tax abatement program, so taxes aren't going to increase, and we can find that information out by doing that. But it also shows them that, hey, we underwrote it. Hey, we're real. We're not just sort of throwing out a lowball offer if they may think that. If we get a response that says, hey, you know, you want to send that over, you want to then send a formal letter of intent, which we have a script for. I highlight the stars because the stars are the only parts of this process where I have any involvement. So we're doing 10 deals per week. I don't want to look at all those deals. If it gets disqualified, I don't really want to step in until I know that we have something that is real and that we have potential of getting an offer. And that's when I'll come in and start to make a look. But for those who are busy professionals, right? If you got some cash that you're making, you may want to look to get you at least a virtual assistant who can send you some properties that are already underwritten. Okay, James, how are we doing on time?
You're doing good. You're at 30 minutes, so you're good to go.
Oh man, I'm gonna talk for 30 minutes. Okay, so the last acquisition that we did, I'm shifting gears right now in case you haven't noticed, and stop just talking about our underwriting process. Now we're going to go into our latest acquisition that we did back in last month, which was Meadowwood Apartments in Augusta, Georgia. And I just threw some slides together. James, I really didn't know how much detail or how little detail to sort of talk about, but I'll just give a brief overview of the property. And then if there's any details that you want me to go into, I can do that.
Sounds perfect. All
right. So it was 68 units. How did I find that deal? LoopNet. As much as people bash LoopNet, you know, I actually got a deal that I liked off of LoopNet. And I had sort of fallen into the trap of not really evaluating those deals. It was someone who brought it to me and said, hey, you might want to check this deal out. I was like, I was on LoopNet, but I gave it to my team that underwrote it, and it came back to me. And I was like, this is impressive. But why I like the deal, quiet submarket, it had a true value add. They were already having units that were achieving $150 over what the price is. And sorry, I'm distracted right now because my 5-year-old just came in. Yeah, that is in the meeting, baby. Good night. All right, good night. Love you. Okay, where was I? Yeah, but they had already done some evaluations, and they were getting those rent bumps. So we already saw a proven business plan. We could come in and sort of continue implementing. We were able to get long-term fixed rate debt. We got 3 years of interest only on it. And we were able to buy assets that had a lot of the major capital expenditures done. And so this is one of the beauties of real estate, because the previous owner knew what they were doing. They got a property at, I want to say, about $30,000 a unit. And so they came in, they addressed all of the major issues. They increased the rents by $100 and they exited. And it wasn't that long of a period of time, but there was still enough value add there for us where we could come on and carry out that business plan, and the deal still works for us. So there was just to show you the beauty of real estate, there was an initial owner who owned for years, who had sort of let the property die down. But even though they let the property die down and not be ran efficiently anymore, he got a payday when somebody saw that problem and fixed it. They partially fixed the problem. Made the property better, and then sold it to us, and then we're going to make the property even better, and then we will sell it to somebody else. So that's just how the game works. We like the deal for those reasons, and a lot of good things are going on with Augusta. Jobs are coming there. There's a major Army project happening down there around Fort Gordon. And so we're just going to leverage that. And this property is fairly close to that too. So a lot of economic drivers helped us with liking this deal too. I I wanted to throw this in here because I didn't want to give sort of the typical everything's great and beautiful. There were some pain points for going through this deal, and I just want to highlight a few of them here, right? So banking was one.
Ajay, we had a couple of questions.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, when I spoke earlier, you were not at 30 minutes, you were at 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. So you're good. You're good. So
yeah, I can wrap it up. Yeah.
no, it's okay. I mean, you got good stuff. So, so one of the questions is, what lenders are you using? Are you using HUD products?
No, I have not used any HUD products yet. Mainly using Fannie products on our acquisitions and bridge debt.
And then the other question was, are there units or apartment complexes that you want to hold on to long term?
I consider long term, but that's for me personally, right? So I am in the process of going through an exit right now, or having the potential to exit. And what I'm doing is just reaching out to investors saying, hey, what do you think? If we exit this property, what would you do? And overwhelmingly, a lot of people don't have anything to do with the money. So they would much rather just hold on to the property and continue to get the returns. So that's an option, but we project everything out to a 5-year. And complete transparency, when you're starting out, people want to see that you have exited properties, right? So if you are raising money from other people, they're going to say, well, what deals have you taken full cycle? And part of my reasoning to exit some of the deals that I already own is just to take them full cycle and say, okay, and we can gear up and go into something that's better. But long-term hold is definitely something that I consider for my own portfolio. And I know other investors who like that as well. But yeah. So at 45 minutes, let me stop running my mouth. Things that didn't go well were banking. I was banking in a new state, didn't have a bank that translated because we want something local. And with doing that, there was a lot of issues with just opening up accounts. So that's something that you don't hear about on your average podcast, webinar, or whatever. Insurance has also skyrocketed. So a lot of the old models were having like $250 a unit is what you should expect for insurance. And we found that we could not get close to that. So talked to several brokers, just really scrambling, trying to make that work. Luckily, we were able to get it more competitive, but you definitely have to, I've definitely changed from doing that to higher insurance rates and using a lawyer, right? So on this deal, just quick background, the owner was a broker and they had a very simple contract. And because there was competitive with multiple bids, like a lot of deals are these days, they sent me over the contract and I didn't take the time to have a lawyer review it because it was simple and I can understand everything. But that was a $5,000 mistake because we had a clause in the contract about what to do on extensions, which I would put up additional money and I agreed to, but we didn't clarify if that money was going to the deal or if the owner could pocket it. So at this point, I'm already hard money into the deal. Can't do anything. But going forward, that was a pain point where I was like, all right, I'll make sure I have a lawyer review it and, use that rather annoying 30, 40 page contract that we put together on a real estate deal instead of a simple, 6-pager. And so just if you haven't closed multifamily properties, you've got the bank who has their requirements. You got syndication lawyers who have their requirements. You're raising money at the same time. And it's like trying to coordinate a wedding where you're trying to get the venue and you've got the musician and you've got the priest. And you're trying to put all this together for this big day where you have the wedding on it. And so there's a lot of pain points that sort of go along with that. But I'm going to go ahead and just sort of wrap it up there. I was close to done anyway. So that's all I got.
We did have a question, and I tried to write it down. I tried to condense it a little bit, but when you started out, how did you know what you could afford? Did you already have investors or go do the deal and then find the investors?
Yeah, so the reason I did that deal that was smaller was because I used my own capital for it. And you can, it's better to line your capital up if you are going to try to use somebody else's capital. You just want to make sure that you have a strong relationship with it, or a very good deal of people that know you.
And those, well, if you guys have questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box. That was the last question that I had, Jason. Nice job, man. That was
Okay.
really, really good. And you've got, these are all ways that people can get in touch with you. You're okay if I send these out when we send out the link for the YouTube?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, awesome. And oh, here we go. So can you,
Wow,
this might take you a little while. Can you please explain how the syndicate works?
Just, I'm assuming they're talking about how syndication
Yeah, I think so.
operates. Okay. Yeah, I'll try to do it briefly. It's where you pool together investors who will invest in your deal, so you're not paying for the whole acquisition yourself. For doing that, you promise, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say promise, but you project returns that you're going to give to the investors. You can never promise anything. It's an investment, but you project returns to the investors, and then you all collectively share in the profits of the property. You do that with a syndication attorney, but that's what a syndication is. Quickly, just a brief summary.
So
Thank
I'll
you.
ask the question, which I know is coming next, which is, oh, here's another question, but real quick, what's a syndication attorney?
These are attorneys who specialize in doing syndications. You can reach out to them. There's several of them, but they will sort of guide you through the process of what you need to do to not get in trouble, because the SEC regulates these events. And so the reason that you do that, and the reason that you pay a lawyer, is that you don't want to have the scenario happen where someone is unhappy with you, they invested with you, and then you haven't done the legal paperwork to be able to offer them a certain return. So you do the legal paperwork to cover you, so you don't end up losing money through a lawsuit. And also you can get banned by the SEC, which is nothing that you want to do if you plan on sticking around in this business.
And what does a syndication attorney cost?
On the lowest I've seen, it's probably about 8,000. It's probably going to be more around 12,000, depending on the size of your deal.
And somebody else asked, do you do partnership deals?
Joint ventures, I have not done. Something that I considered, but so you may have a deal. It's a smaller deal. Maybe it's $1 million, $2 million. You've got to come up with 300-400 grand. You can JV partnerships. I'm not the best person to really talk about that because I haven't done it, but it's another way to do it without having to go through all of the syndication attorney documents and still being able to do a deal.
Awesome. And then anybody else have questions? We've got Jason for a couple more minutes here before we actually go into networking. Jason, any other last, oh, here we go. How did you find your partners?
Yes, it's all through networking. So I would strongly encourage learning, right? Becoming a part of a group where you're around a lot of like-minded people who are doing the same thing. And when you do that, you'll find that various people have different strengths. And then you just look for somebody who has strengths that you don't have.
If I can just throw my 2 cents in there too, don't pick a partner and decide you're going to run with that partner for the next 10 years. Maybe you want to partner with somebody and limit it to one deal and see how you do it, or see how it goes, and then decide after that if you want to do a second deal. I think you'll find sometimes that there's some great people out there, and there's some people that maybe whose work ethic is not maybe what yours would be.